How's it going, guys? This is Jacob Secor with JS Outdoors, and I wanted to spend a little bit of time today and talk to you guys about Combat Application Tourniquets, or CATs. So what are tourniquets and why do we need them? Tourniquets are tools that help us stop mass bleeding on the extremities, so your arms or your legs. When applying this tool correctly, you'll be able to effectively stop bleeding from your extremities from laceration, gunshot wound, things along that nature. These usually are going to be used when direct pressure and bandaging isn't going to be an effective way to stop the bleeding on the extremity, and this will ultimately stop the bleeding due to cutting off circulation to that extremity. So some applications for a tourniquet and places where you might want to consider carrying a tourniquet is in situations where you may be isolated or far away from medical treatment or medical aid. Some things that come to mind for me is when I'm hunting, I'm usually carrying a tourniquet on me. Other situations would be like going to the range, going out on camping trips, also keeping them in your vehicles and in your backpacks that you're carrying throughout the day, because you never really know when you're going to find yourself in a situation where you may need to stop bleeding on yourself or someone else. So a tourniquet's not always going to be the end-all be-all. It's important to make sure that you have some items like these bleeding control kits that we sell on our website jsoutdoorsllc.com. So we have the basic and the advanced with Celox. Celox is a hemostatic agent that will help with the clotting of blood. There are a lot more items in here besides a tourniquet. Each one of the kits does have a tourniquet in it, and we can go over these other supplies in a later video, but we're going to focus today just on the tourniquets. When we're buying tourniquets, it's important you get it from a creditable manufacturer. The one that I prefer is North American Rescue. The North American Rescue C.A.T tourniquets, the Gen 7s they're currently on, are ANSI and OSHA certified and are also an approved tool with the TCCC. The other important thing about the North American Rescue tourniquets is that they are made in the United States of America. So you're not getting a chintzy Chinese remake of it, and that's kind of what you have to be aware of when you're going to buy these things, and make sure you're buying it with a reputable brand. And again, we do also sell the individual tourniquets on our website jsoutdoorsllc.com, and you can go ahead and pick them up there. So some crucial components of the C.A.T tourniquet that are good to know is that it has a windlass, which is this stick here. Basically what this does is this has this internal wrap that feeds along this edge here, and it tightens. That's what actually gets you that ratcheting, tightening function of the tourniquet. With that, you have the windlass clip here, which is what the windlass will actually snap into. And then you have the windlass clip strap here, which you can put over to protect that windlass once you're done with the operation. So other important things on the tourniquet are the stabilizing bracket on the back of this windlass assembly, and then also the routing bracket. The routing bracket is where you route the tag end of the tourniquet through and will give you that lock once you lock the band down on itself. Alright, so let's quickly talk about how to preload this thing. So ultimately, when you purchase it, it'll come in a plastic wrapper, and we want to remove that wrapper. We're going to route this like we would during normal operation. So this will go through this loop, and we'll affix this onto itself here. Then, excuse the dog hair, we'll set this aside. Now it's easier to store. You can put it in pouches, in your backpack, whatever you need. Also take this time band here and then kind of affix it to the side. So what that allows for is one less thing that you have to do when you're applying this to someone, and then it allows for easy operation of the windlass. Alright, so we've identified our injured person. We're unable to stop this bleed with any sort of topical pressure and bandages. It's too large, so we're going to have to ultimately tourniquet this person. So because we've already preloaded this, we're able to slide this over the extremity. We're going to be looking for about 2 to 3 inches above the wound. Now, considerations are going to be elbows and knees. You do not want to tourniquet a joint, so you're going to go just above that joint if that area 2 to 3 inches above falls on a joint. So in this case, we're going to say that it does not. All right, so we'll slide this over our extremity and tighten down this tag end. This will go around itself like so. So see here how I can kind of fit the tips of my fingers under here? That's how you know that that's not tight enough. So we're going to want to try to retighten that. Okay, so that's pretty tight. It is a little high, but that's all right for this example. All right, so next what you're going to do is you're going to take this windlass and you're going to turn the windlass. See how this is slowly tightening this internal band, creating more pressure onto this extremity. We're going to continue to do this until we see no more blood coming out of this injury. And then we'll affix the windlass into the clip. And then we'll take this tag end, pull it over for a little bit of added protection. And then we'll pull this time band over. All right, so next thing we want to do is record the time. So you can record the time on the band here. Some things to keep into consideration is that if there's been a lot of blood and it's gotten on this band, you might not be able to write it. So what you could do is kind of wipe off an area here or find an area that's not covered in blood, write the time next to the tourniquet, or another thing that you can do is write it on the forehead. So if you've applied this tourniquet and you're still unable to stop the bleeding, your next step would be to apply another tourniquet directly next to it. And what that'll do is put more pressure onto the artery that's causing this large bleed and hopefully stop the bleeding altogether. So tourniquets are a fairly inexpensive insurance that you can give yourself when you're out doing whatever it is you may be, whether it's hunting or shooting or just going backpacking or just keeping it in the car. Okay, so what's the lifespan of these things? If you keep them in a good condition and you keep them well protected, they can last a long time. Every time we use a tourniquet, we're not going to keep it after its use. There's potential for damage or fraying or parts of this mechanism that'll get worn out, and then ultimately that could be a failure point when you need to use it. If you're carrying the tourniquet external, where it's easily accessible, which is recommended, you might want to consider protecting it, covering it. There's a lot of different covers you can get out there for tourniquets, but make sure that it's protected, because when it's exposed to the elements, kind of like when you leave something in the window of a car or against the window at your house, you'll start to see discoloration because of the sun. So keep in mind where you're keeping these, look at them often, do some observations to see if it has started to become damaged, and then replace it once you notice some port damage. If you're looking to practice with a tourniquet, I suggest getting a practice tourniquet, a blue tourniquet, something that you're not going to use in your pack, because again, we don't want to reuse these items after they have been used, because there's a potential that we could have caused a failure point when we go to reuse it down the road. The blue tourniquets are nice because they're easily visually identified as a training tool. If you do not want to buy a specific training tool, but you do have a older tourniquet, you can write on it with a Sharpie, something, paint it, whatever you got to do, make it visibly obvious that that's the training tool, so that way you don't mix it up in your gear and then have a potential failure out in the field or when you're trying to use it in the future. All right, so hopefully that video gives you a little bit more understanding and clarification on using tourniquets, when to use them, how generally to use them, and then considerations when you're buying and storing that item. Again, the items we talked about are available on the website, jsoutdoorsllc.com. Feel free to pick it up there. If you do decide to support us by purchasing items from us, thank you very much. And that ultimately is going to help us fund future videos and then be able to expand the business to provide better training to everyone that signs up for our classes. If there's anything else you guys want to know about tourniquets or different ideas for future videos or medical videos or fishing videos, whatever it may be, feel free to drop comments below, reach out to us on social media, and we'll get back to you and we'll consider making a video for something that you guys want to see. Make sure you practice as much as you can, practice often, practice doing these types of skills with both hands, reaching into different areas, getting it out of your backpack. Ultimately, that repetition is going to come in play when you're in a high stress situation and you actually need to deploy this item.